my okay, the recording just started. Okay, so we are recording these and we do post them to our Anandamayi Satsang West YouTube channel so people can come back later and check on the readings, or if they missed the meeting, they can come. So we ask everyone's permission and know that if you speak or something, you will be recorded, but it'll just be seen by devotees. And we hope that that in no way affects people's enthusiasm to participate, because this is a participatory meeting. It will be eventually. So let's, we always start, I know many of you joined for our puja of Ma's birthday last month. That was really wonderful. But in the satsangs, what we do is we always introduce everyone. We have everyone introduce themselves briefly, because one of the reasons of this satsang, my reason in starting it, is that Ma touches so many hearts. We're here because Ma has touched each one of our hearts. We only come to Ma through her grace. When she touches us, she says, people come to me when the time is right, when they're ripe and their time is right. So it's in addition to studying Ma's teachings and hearing her words, we also want to have community with each other. So we are definitely, even though it's, this strange cyber online thing, we are from all over the world now part of this Ma Anandamayi satsang community. And I want everyone to know that we're all here for each other, to help each other and encourage each other and inspire each other. So let's start with introducing everyone. Introduce themselves. I'll introduce Pragya and Renu. And at this time, because we have a lot of people, just say your name and where you're from, okay? And then later on, when we open the mic for discussion, we'll be free to talk about things. I love to hear how people came to Ma at that time. But now we just say our name and where we're from. So I'm Mangalananda, and I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'll do a little further introduction, because why am I doing this? So I'm an appointed acharya of Ma Sharanam ashrams in India. And I've been encouraged to have these satsangs. In fact, they recently said, whatever happens outside of India is on your plate. You take care of it. So they deal with the ashram in India, and I deal with everything out of India. Okay, and then I want to introduce our Pragya Hallstrom. Why don't you introduce yourself, our co-host, and we'll be reading from her book too. So Pragya.
Jai Ma, everyone, it's so good to see you again. Thank you so much to those of you who were at our birthday celebration a couple of weeks ago. It was really such a beautiful, beautiful time together. And I apologize that the 2 weeks came very quickly between then and now. I didn't send out an announcement very early for this. In fact, I sent it out yesterday because suddenly it was 2 weeks. It was the third Sunday. So I'm very happy you're here. And yeah, it's beautiful. We live in Amherst, Massachusetts. Jai Ma.
And our other technical co-host is Renu. Why don't you introduce yourself, Renu?
Hey Ma, Renu here from Northern California, Fremont, near Mangalananda Ji and Gloria Ji. And I will go down the participant list. When I call your name, just click on the little microphone to unmute yourself, and then go back on mute if you can. And we'll just go down the list and introduce people one at a time. So we're going to start with Charlotte or Juliet.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm currently in Orange County, California.
Good to see you. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Welcome. Next we have Katia from Portugal.
Yes, thank you, Renu. Thank you. This is Katia from Portugal. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah,
Thank you. Always a blessing to be with you. Thank you. Jai Ma.
And by the way, a little note from my side. My book about Ma, A Goddess Among Us, is being translated into Portugal even now.
Oh, it's great news. Great news. Thank you.
Yeah, I should. It's been translated now to French, Spanish, Hindi, and Polish. It's Polish. So I'll maybe put you in touch with the person who's doing it. If you
Okay, yes, it would be very, very nice. Yes.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Okay, Jai Ma, welcome. Next we have David Castleman.
David, you there? I think you went out of the room. Oh, there he is, David. You want to introduce yourself? Unmute.
Yes, David Castleman here in Healdsburg, California, and kirtan leader for Ananda Guru Kula in Santa Rosa with Maitreyi and Liam and all those guys. And yes, and I played a little bit with Mangalananda several years ago. Anyway, I've been practitioner of yoga forever. So anyway, carry on.
Is Trish there?
Well, Trish is crashed out. She's not feeling well. So she's got some sort of bug. So anyway.
I'm glad you could join us. Good to see you.
She sends her love. Yes, Jay Ma.
Hey Ma, welcome. Next we have Frank Carr.
You there, Frank? Oh, there you are. You got to unmute.
Oh, hi, everyone. Jay Ma.
Hey, Mike.
Frank, and this is my better half, Denise. She's her first time joining in, and we're coming in from Hermiston, Oregon. Jay Ma.
Oh, good to see you. Welcome, Denise, and good to see you, Frank. Always.
Oh, thank you. You as well. Good to see you, Frank.
Jay Ma, welcome to you both. And next we have Greg, who popped in earlier.
Say hi, Greg.
Did you hi Greg? Did you say, I thought you might have said Greg, but I didn't hear you. Hi, I'm Greg in New Hampshire. Jay Ma, thank you.
Good to see you, Greg. The time will come when we meet in person, because hopefully we're going to go up to Pragya's Satsang in Boston, but, when things calm down more. But good to see you.
Oh, wonderful. Definitely. Thank you.
Jay Ma.
Jay Ma.
Jay Ma, Greg, welcome. Next we have Ilona.
Jay Ma, everybody. Ilona from New Hampshire as well.
Good to see you, Ilona. Jay Ma.
Jay Ma, welcome. Next we have Janet Rubinson.
Jay Ma, Janet and David.
Oh.
From Florida.
Good to see you guys.
Good to be here. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Jay Ma, welcome. Next, John.
In the future, too.
Yeah. Hey, Mangalanji and everybody. This is John from Berkeley.
Good to see you, John.
Hi.
We're going for a walk next Saturday.
Yes, we are.
Welcome, John. Next, we have Julia from Canada.
Jai Ma, everyone. Yes, Julia, and I'm in Northern Ontario.
Jay Ma Shama.
Jay Ma, welcome. Next, we have Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael from Sebastopol, California, Northern California. Jay Ma.
Jay Ma, Michael, good to see you. Rainey said she saw you at the Jai Tal concert last night.
Yeah, I got to meet her in person.
Good.
That was fun.
That was awesome. Jay Ma, welcome. Next, we have Murad, Dr. G.
Hi, this is Murad from Boston. I didn't know if you called on me or not, but I'm jumping in.
No, that's it.
Jai Ma to all. Jai Ma to all.
Good to see you, Dr. G, always.
Jay Ma, welcome, Dr. G. Next, we have Gulshan or Paul.
Jay Ma, everybody. Gulshan from Washington, D.C. Good to see everybody. Jay Ma.
Jay Ma Gulshan. Yeah, see, that's one of my intentions. This is like a family meeting now. As we come more often, and we all recognize each other's faces. And someday we'll get together and have a big, retreat in person, maybe Mid-America somewhere where we could all join. But really good to see everybody. I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead. Good to see you, Gulshan. Jay Ma.
Jay Ma, welcome. Next, we have Reed.
Hi, everybody. Jay Ma.
Jay Ma.
From Berkeley.
Very good to see you.
Jay Ma, welcome. Next, we have Reed and my neighbor, Scott.
Scott, you there?
Hello.
There you go.
My name is Scott Linford, Fair Oaks, California. Originally from Boston. I like all the New Englanders here. So shout out.
Very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Good to see you. It's good to see you coming again and again. That's really wonderful. Who's next?
Next, we have Shaku. Aloha.
Aloha from Kauai in Hawaii.
So
Jema.
this is Shaku, who used to be Sue.
Yes.
Okay, well, good to see you, Shaku.
Yeah. Shaku is actually a Bengali name, among other languages, and it means grateful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Good to see you.
Feels more like me than the old name.
It does change your energy when you get a new name. It's really interesting. Yeah.
I find that.
Aloha, Jay Ma, welcome. Next, we have Sheila Pandey.
Jai Ma, Renu Didi. I'm Sheila Pandey from Ellicott City, Maryland, and I have 2 new people with me.
जय मां। जय मां। आपका स्वागत है, आपका स्वागत है। ये आपका घर है, हमेशा हमारे साथ आना।
So that's my mom Radhika and my father Ramesh.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Very good you're here. Excellent.
Welcome to the whole familia.
आपने माँ का दर्शन किया?
फोटो में No, नहीं मिले.
कोई बात नहीं। माँ हमेशा हमारे साथ है।
उनको जानते हैं.
अच्छा, माँ हमेशा हमारे साथ।
मिले नहीं जानते.
Very good. I'm so happy you're here. That's so nice.
Jai Ma, namaste. And next we have Yana from Aloha, Hawaii.
Jai Ma, Yana from Hilo, Hawaii, the other side from Shaku of the state.
Jai Ma, Yana. Good to see you.
The Big Island. And I'm going to go down the participant list to see, Carla.
I think we have John and Meredith Twomey's iPhone too. I don't think we saw them.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Jai Ma. I'm Carla from Rockport, Massachusetts, by the ocean here.
Good. Always good to see you, Carla. Jai Ma.
Thank you. Jai Ma.
And John and Meredith, as Mangalananda Jiwa had just mentioned. Do you want to introduce yourselves? Unmute.
There, you have to unmute yourself. John and Meredith Twomey's iPhone. Which a pretty tree. Okay, as long as everybody's listening, that's good.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Start with, is that everybody? Anyone not been introduced? Okay, good. I want to start with a quick update that I think is relevant to our group. I was invited to join a few years ago a thing called the Contemplative Alliance. And it's a very wonderful alliance, as it says, of meditation teachers from many different lineages and paths. And we haven't met for several years because of COVID. And we had a small meeting in Sedona, Arizona last week. All last week I was in Sedona. And it was just so wonderful to meditate with these very material sadhaks with many different viewpoints, many different paths. But we spent a lot of time just every day sharing our practices and leading different meditations from different perspectives. And that was wonderful. And also just having wonderful and deep discussions how to carry on this work. And
down there is the first piece. You're going to get crushed. So just move. Okay, well.
Hello, Johnny, muted? Okay. And it was so wonderful how present Ma, Anandamayi Ma, is in these groups. Several people came up to me and said, I have Ma's photo on my picture, on my altar. She's so dear to me. And we visited, excuse me, one of the participants was a Swami Shankarananda from a Shivananda tradition. And we visited his ashram outside of Sedona. And there's Ma on the altar, there's Ma on the wall. Everyone loves Ma. So still, she's in everyone's heart. And she's, as she always has been, the mother of all. She came for everyone, no matter what teacher or what path one has. Ma is very relevant. So that was just kind of a news update. But it was just wonderful being with these wonderful, deep and devoted and mature sadhaks and sharing views with them. So as we do here, we have kind of a order we follow. I'd like to open with Ma's words, where she confirms to us that she's definitely present here with us in each person's heart. So Ma says, I am ever with each one of you, wherever you happen to be, but your vision is tied down to worldly matters and you have little time to direct your eyes to this body and your thoughts and actions. What can I do? But know it for certain that whatever you do in thought and deed, whether you are near or in distant lands, never escapes my loving attention. Just as at a flash of torchlight, your faces gleam forth in their bold outlines, all your facial expressions appear in my mind when you meditate on me or talk about me or sit down to pray to me. So we should just keep that contemplation in our mind. Ma, when we speak of her, Ma sees our face clearly. We know that that's called infinite consciousness. And of course, she's the self in everyone's heart. So she sees everything because she's within each person. And then we always start with this one particular kirtan, which is you could say the theme song of our ashram in India, which is called Ma Sharanam Ashram. So we're relating to Ma intellectually now by hearing her words, thinking of her advice. But now, we use our hearts. So through singing, we can just open our hearts and feel Ma's presence. So let's sing this simply, Om Ma Sharanam. Sharanam means a place of refuge, a place of security and safety. That's what Ma is to us. Well, I'll do the sound. Om Ma Sharanam, 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 Om Ma Sharanam. Om Ma Sharanam, 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 Om Ma Sharanam. Anandamayi Ma, 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 Anandamayi Ma. Anandamayi Ma, 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 Om Ma Sharanam. Om Ma Sharanam, Om Ma Sharanam. Om Ma Sharanam, Om Ma. 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 Om Ma Sharanam, 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 Om Ma Sharanam. And one last time, all together. Om Ma Sharanam, Om Ma Sharanam, Om Ma Sharanam, Om Ma Sharanam. Om Bhavata Paprinashanye Ananda Ghanamurtaye Jnana Bhakti Mukti Pradayanye Mahastubhyam Namo Namaha. So let's just sit for a few moments and feel Ma's presence with us, teaching us in silence. So I always like to start with a couple of instances from Ma's life to show how she moved through this world, how she related to people. This is very interesting. We may have read this before, but anyway, it's always good. This is from a book called My Mother Anandamayi by Vishuddha Da. Vishuddha is still in her body, and she's the one who takes care. She's in charge of Ma's Samadhi shrine in Kankal, where Ma's body is interred. And she's a wonderful lady. She's lived her whole life with Ma. She grew up in the Kanya Peeth, where Ma in Varanasi, the girls' school in Varanasi, as a resident. And Ma had paid a lot of attention to those girls, even though Ma traveled, all the time for 50 years. She was frequently coming to Varanasi, and she'd always personally looked out for each girl and make sure they were really being treated right and raised right. Here's a little bit of an introduction. Vishuddha Das' grandmother was the great devotee of Ma, Viraj Mohini Devi. If you read Ma's satsangs earlier, she plays a lot of Ma's Leela. This elderly woman was at one point chosen by Ma to accompany her for a long period of incognito travel. For months, no one knew where Ma was, and only the two, Ma and Viraj Mohini, traveled without any money, with only one change of clothes and with no set destination, wandering as penniless sadhus according to Ma's divine Khyal. They had many miraculous adventures, which Viraj Mohini wrote in her diary. At the end of the travel, Ma asked her, "Have you been writing this down?" She said, "Yes, Ma." Ma had her throw the diary into a river. Hence, we have very little record of that period. The following story was told to Vishuddha by both Ma and her grandmother. It is given below from the book in Ma's own words as she spoke to the author. At the time of this narration, Vishuddha was sitting with Ma on the very river ghat where the incident had taken place a few years before. And this shows a very interesting thing about Ma and her manifestation, what her body was. Okay, so this is Ma speaking about what happened here. This is when those times, it was for months and months, the two of them just wandered by themselves. And if they ever saw somebody who knew Ma and started to come to, they would run away and they'd go somewhere else. And just Ma was just totally free. And Vishuddha said that it was hard to keep up with Ma. She said she would walk with her eyes up and not on paths, like through forests, through fields. And she said she swore Ma's feet really touched the ground. She was just in this state. Must have been incredible. So here's Ma's own words about this event. When this body had come here with your grandmother, Viraj Mohini, when we were on Agnatavas, that's wandering, the two of us sat in this very place. We were sitting for a long time and evening fell. As this body showed no sign of getting up, Viraj Mohini felt that I was meant to stay here. But where were we to sleep? Searching around, she found a small rope cot. I see they're just sitting by the side of a river. And it was infested with mosquitoes, as we know. Searching around, she found a small rope cot, but the place was highly mosquito infested. She was at a loss about letting this body sleep amidst a swarm of mosquitoes. After some thought, she knotted together the extra clothes that she and this body were to put on the next day and somehow improvised a makeshift mosquito net. Then she invited this body to lay down and rest. This body said to her, Mataji, you too should lie on the cot. Viraj Mohini folded her hands and implored, Ma, forgive me. I shall by no means lie next to you on such a small cot. After a day's toil, I'm so tired that I shall fall asleep wherever I lay down. Mosquitoes are no problem to me. But if I lay next to you, firstly, my feet might touch you, and I might not be able to sleep through such worries of showing any disrespect to you. She might roll over and whap Ma unconsciously in her sleep. Yet the more she objected, the more this body insisted. You too must sleep inside the net. At last, this body started weeping like a child. This was Ma's sweet way. Viraj Mohini was helpless, so she lay down on the cot beside this body after carefully tucking in the net and tying it tightly in place. So you get the expression, they're on this little rope bed, and they've got this piece of cloth stretched all around, top and bottom on all four sides, and tightly tied as a mosquito net. So they can't really get out unless without a big deal. Viraj Mohini was stoutly built, and this body was not thin either. However, Viraj Mohini fell asleep as soon as she lay down. At midnight, she suddenly woke up, wondering where she was sleeping that night. As soon as she remembered that she was lying next to Ma on the same cot, she reached over and tried to feel where Ma was. Good gracious, where was she? At this, Ma laughed loudly. She was lying alone. She felt that the net was still securely tied in place, but Ma was not on the cot. She did not have the courage to get down from the cot and look for her, as Ma might be lying below, and she would then step on her in getting down. She recalled that Ma never went anywhere without letting her know first. Not knowing where to look for her in the dark or how she escaped from the closely tied mosquito net without disturbing it, Viraj Mohini lay back down in the dark, repeating the name of God, sleeplessly awaiting the dawn. When daylight came, looking to her side, she saw this body lying there beside her. She was very surprised indeed. At last, when this body got up, she asked, well, Ma, where were you last night? I could not find you. Saying this, as Ma was saying the narrative, Ma began to laugh. Some of us present with Ma also asked, Ma, where were you really? Ma smiled and replied, I leave it to you to guess. Then the author, Vishuddha, says, the fact is that God can assume all forms on the prayer of a devotee. My grandmother was afraid that Ma would feel discomfort on the small cot in her company, or that she would unknowingly show Ma disrespect. In order to allow her to sleep at ease, Ma, while lying on the same cot, made her body ethereal, subtle, sukshma, we say in Sanskrit. But then incredible, and that shows, that's very interesting. It says in the Shastras that when the avatar comes, like Rama and Krishna, they don't really take a physical body. It's called Chinmaya. It's a body that's made of consciousness. And it's just so they can relate to this world and relate to us. I talked to a great yogi I knew in India once, and I said, what do you see when you see Ma? He says, what I see is just infinite blinding light, which she's covered with a thin veil, which looks like a body to keep from blinding us. So Ma, she really was in our midst as a human, but it was literally a body made of Chinmaya. It was made of consciousness. So she could just withdraw it at will. It was like a lantern slide almost. So and out of kindness for her devotee, her devotee was so afraid that she would show disrespect that she just withdrew it in the subtle realm. And then she just when it go back later. Our Ma is wonderful. Okay, here's another reading. This is from a Westerner, so you can see kind of the Western point of view of this left brain mind that we have in the West. It's by from the book The Essential Anandamayi Ma by Dr. Alexander Lipsky. He was a great scholar, and he has some nice things to say about mind. He had wonderful experiences, but here you can see it from a Western viewpoint. So Dr. Alexander Lipsky says, how is one to deal with the personality of someone who defies all categorization, so dear to the Western analytical mind? Her devotees to this day wonder who she really is. The Italian devotee Miriam Orr concludes, quote, Mother is not a human being like all the others. She is divine light clad in considered egoed consciousness. I skipped a line. Mother is not a human being like all the others. She is divine light clad in a human form, unquote. There seems to be a general agreement that she does not exhibit what is normally considered ego consciousness. No personal likes or dislikes, cravings or aversions are apparent. At no time does she have to face the agonizing struggles, conflicts, temptations, and doubts occurring in the lives of even the greatest saints. She is totally devoid of fear and anger. Whenever she displays moods, it is clear that she is acting in that manner to bring home a certain point, to teach a lesson. Instead of being the captive of common human motivations and impulses, she follows what she terms kayal, signifying divine will. For example, she visited Dr. Gopinath Kaviraj in June 1961 while he was lying in a hospital in Bombay. On the way out, she had the kayal to stop at the bed of a Muslim patient who was dying from cancer. She stroked all over his body, blessing him. Obviously, there were many other deathly sick patients, but her kayal singled him out. Once she stunned her devotees by greeting with laughter a disciple who had just suffered the loss of his wife. Offended by her seemingly callous attitude, he asked for the cause of her merriment. Father, she replied, there was one less barrier between you and God. On the other hand, Anandamayi Ma can act kindly beyond human comprehension. A young man had terribly misbehaved while staying in one of her ashrams. He was much egotistic and stubborn, driving the other ashram inmates to desperation. They finally told Ma that he ought to be expelled from the ashram, but she replied, when nobody wants such a poor and hapless boy, don't you think that he needs me most? Will it do the world any good if this young man be allowed to rot in the mire? The young misfit stayed and in time became one of her finest devotees. Her followers claim she is continuously in the highest state of samadhi, which Paramahansa Yogananda also saw. Even as she looks at you, you are aware of the fact that she is with you and yet far beyond you, that she has that dual vision encompassing the manifest and the transcendent. In her presence, one feels as though mentally stripped naked. There's no point in trying to hide anything. As uncomfortable as this may appear to be, it is tempered by the realization that Ma understands all and does not condemn anyone. For from her point of view, you are, above all, a soul, possibly greatly tarnished by egoistic tendencies, but still a divine soul. Being in her presence produces a consciousness of one's imperfections, as well as an extreme feeling of serenity. Even a beginner on the spiritual path will sense that he is in intimate contact with the divine. The quintessence of her being is summed up in this statement. The most remarkable characteristic of Anandamayi is to awaken or intensify the keen desire for the spiritual life in all who approach her. And I can add from my own experience a couple of observations relevant to what he was saying. It was true. I remember the first time I saw Ma, we was in the Vrindavan ashram, and she came out. In fact, I've showed some people, Renu and some people here, the very room where she was. She came out from this inner room and sat, when she heard we come, on this little charpai, and we sat in front of her. There were about 6 relatives who just come. And she looked at each one of us for a long time in the eyes, didn't speak. But what struck me was, as I looked at her, I thought, what would it be like to see Ma? As I just sat there and rested my eyes on her and looked and looked and looked, my heart's content. God, I would love to do that now. What struck me was it was so novel in the sense that here was a person there was no ego. I mean, there was somebody who, and again, this was just a perception. It can't even be duplicated. She was sitting there. In one sense, there was no one there. There was just no ego. She was not projecting anything. We all project our personality, our ego, our self-concept. Ma was just like there, almost like a blank. But at the same time, she was just regal, like the unquestioned queen of the universe. There was a nobility and a regal nature about her that was just unquestionable. And it wasn't, at the same time, you see people who have a lot of charisma, again, they'll be projecting this thing. It was these two conflicting things, nothing, no ego, same time, nobility of a queen. It was just remarkable. And it is true, when she looked at you, she looked through everything. And the very sight of her would wake you up. That was my experience. When I saw her, my own being woke up. So yeah, he said something else. About being distant, present, but distant. Ma had many different bhavs when we were with her. Sometimes, for instance, if there was a festival coming up, Ma would be right there in the midst of all of us, walking around, telling what to cook, saying, clean this up, do this, very much involved. I mean, intimately involved. Other times she'd be sitting with us and you'd feel everybody in the room, even if Ma sat with her eyes closed, everyone felt Ma was giving them her full attention. Like Ma was like streaming her attention to you. Even if she was just sitting looking out like this, everyone felt Ma was giving them all attention. And then other times Ma would sit and she would just be like a million miles away. She would just be totally, you feel she was so distant. But what that did, and I talked to other devotees too, what this inspired in us was not that, oh, Ma's too far away, we can't touch her. It inspired a great intense desire to concentrate on our sadhana more so that we could really be with Ma. We realized, okay, Ma is in a place we can't have access to at this time. But if we really do our sadhana, we will. So it was inspiring both ways. It was wonderful when she paid attention, and when her attention was elsewhere, she inspired us. Yes, let's really join Ma where she is. So, okay. So we'll ask. I'm going to ask Pragya now to read from her book, her upcoming book, which is at the printer now, at the publisher now, which is a collection of previously unpublished satsangs of Ma from a long. Ma, Pragya can explain it again. Those who haven't heard this, but it's going to be a great contribution to the literature of Anandamayi Ma. And we're getting a preview of this before it's even out. So Pragya, you want to explain what the book is and have your reading?
Jai Ma, yes, thank you so much. When about 2 years after Ma left her body, there was a collection of tapes of her talks that were donated to the Harvard Divinity School Library. And so these are the transcriptions, first transcriptions, then translations of these talks that Ma gave between 1960 and 1980. This particular talk is from Vrindavan in January of 1975. And it's one of my favorites because Ma really addresses what it means to be a Westerner who's attracted to the Hindu path, to Sanatana Dharma. And she talks very openly about what it means. The person is asking the question, can an American become a Hindu? And I love this. And then following that, she talks, and next time I will read the next section where she speaks of Atmananda, the great Austrian devotee. And she speaks of the trials she went through being a non-Indian in Ma's ashram. Speaks beautifully. So I'll stop before that and read that next time. Questioner, one who is a foreigner, one who was born abroad, is it possible for that person to be a Hindu? Sri Ma, here's the thing. God's kingdom is really marvelous. God's kingdom is called Swarajya. Swarajya means swa plus raja. Swa means one's own form. Do you understand the meaning of Swarupa? What is one's own form? One's own form means the form of God. Some people adopt the line of Prabhu and Sevak, Lord and servant. They take themselves to be the servants of God. For them, service and action are all that exist, and they exist in the self. They serve the world or work in the world, keeping themselves in the self. And those who follow the Advaita philosophy already believe in the oneness of God and soul. There's no difference for them, no duality. When one takes that path of mukti, liberation, the one omnipresent self alone manifests before him. Ekam Brahma Dvitiyo Nasti. God is one, there is no second. Today you've come from America to see this body. You could never have come had you already not been within this body. It shows the oneness of the self of this body and yourself. Otherwise, you would never have recognized this body. It's just like water and ice. Just as water is ever related to ice, so God is ever related to the self. Water is formless, while ice is the form. To tell you the truth, everything is in that Vishvatita, God beyond the universe alone. Everything is He alone. He is omnipresent. Narayan, Narayan. For example, it's just like the banyan tree in which within a small seed lies a big tree. That seed is lying in the soil. It is unseen, but the whole tree is that seed alone. When that seed is sown in the earth, it forms into such a big tree. Again, a seed falls in the earth, and that too forms another big tree. This body is just given an example. Though they never compare in all ways, at least the example contains something. That one is present in all, and all is present in that one. Why is it so present? What is the reason? All is present in all because God is all, and He is present everywhere. Where does He not exist? He is present everywhere, and wherever He is, all is also there. This body explained the same thing in a gathering this morning. Kalpana matra jagat shrishta. The world is the creation of God's imagination. All things of similar or dissimilar kinds and of one or various species are created by that one. Plants, minerals, the creatures on earth, ocean, and space, everything is the creation of that one God. Just like you are one that are called by so many names. You are called son, father, and husband. Even so, He is one, but He's called by many names. And you may have only 3 names, while He is called by infinite names because He is endless. He is infinite. His children are numberless. There is no end. They cannot be counted. Innumerable, infinite, as well as finite. So now you can understand why you came here. And when this body says it is possible for a Westerner to become a Hindu, she says that on the basis of the scriptures. They tell us that in whatever caste or whatever place one is born, he can rise from that place. He can rise from that status. See, for example, Rishi Vishwamitra attained Brahmanatva, the status of a Brahmin, when he was a Kshatriya, a warrior by birth. But the thing to understand here is this Brahmanatva or Brahmanhood, and ultimately the Lord, was achieved by him within his inner self through action and work. What is a Brahmin? One who knows Brahman, the absolute, is called a Brahmin. So Vishwamitra knew Brahman within himself, and as such was called a Brahmin. Once Brahmanatva is manifested in him, he had to be accepted as Brahmin. When he attained complete Brahmanatva, he had to be accepted as a Brahmin. Now you understand. Once the manifestation is complete, anything can happen. And Ma laughs and everyone joins her. Somebody else says, what was the question? Shrima, the question was, can a person who is born in a certain country or a certain social group be taken into another country or social group? It depends on that person's gunas, qualities, and state. If he has those qualifications or has attained that state, he can be another jati, another social group, but he should have all the gunas of that category. Having a few of the gunas will not do, Ma laughs. He must attain that state too. If he doesn't, it cannot happen. There is one thing. As far as the question of becoming a Hindu is concerned, we have to follow what has been said in the scripture. Once the qualities as detailed in the scriptures manifest in a person, his case can be considered. There are some rules of conduct and ethics explained in the scriptures. We cannot change them without referring to the scriptures. Question: are the characteristics of a Hindu given in the scriptures? Shrima, all the characteristics are given there. But to become a Hindu or a Muslim is something else. They need to go beyond that small jati, that small caste. Some become Hindus and others become Muslims. There are some people who follow Sanatana Dharma. For the people who are Atmasta, established in the self, who have attained mukti, liberation, there is no such discrimination based on caste or creed. There is no caste or creed for a person who is free from the point of place and time. Yes, for he who is established in the self, who has attained liberation, there is no such discrimination based on caste or creed. There's no caste or creed for a person who is free from the point of view of place and time. First, let them follow Dharma, the righteous way of life. Why should they follow Dharma? Why should they have faith in Bhagavan? Until he is attained, until he is contacted, all these matters of differentiation and discrimination will linger. Once a person becomes a truly religious person and truly follows a dharma, he becomes free from bondage. He sees and feels only one soul, and then there is no question of discrimination. Once there is mukti, liberation, there will be no distinctions. Questioner, this is someone else. He wants to know if he can become a Hindu or not. Shrima, Hindu dharma, you can embrace the dharma as you wish. For some reason, due to some acts in previous birth, one becomes a Christian or takes birth in some other caste. But if his qualities and actions are those of a Hindu, he is a Hindu according to the scripture. That Hindu samskara, that impression from a past life, automatically comes into him. It is not the question of taking or adopting Hinduism. It is not taken, not adopted. It is a quality that comes into oneself. It is all due to destiny. Nobody makes a person Hindu. It comes automatically into him. Jai Ma.
Thank you, Pragya. Yeah, so let's consider that now. It's a very interesting reading, very relevant reading. Ma's vision was so complete. You know, we think of Ma, she was, you know, beyond the gunas, beyond everything in the state of conscious, you know, unity. But her vision was so complete. She saw the whole spectrum down to the smallest detail of people's lives and things. And those who, and again, like we said earlier, she accepted everyone. She didn't see their faults. She acknowledged their divinity. But those who came to offer their lives to her, she was very strict. And she gave a lot of rules to follow and a lot of restrictions to follow. We were talking about Atmananda, the Austrian lady, who was, you know, who wrote her diaries, Death Must Die, who had so much trouble with the orthodoxy of the ashram. I knew Atmananda. In fact, the last private I had with Ma, she translated for me. It was in Kankal. There was a really interesting legal that Ma allowed to happen. The ashrams were started, never by Ma. They were just started by devotees as Ma traveled. In fact, when the first ashram was going to be started, Ma said, the whole world, the whole universe is my ashram. Why do you need another ashram? And she said, I have no ashrams. But she said, okay, if you want to start these, because they started in different places Ma had traveled, just to allow her to have a space for people to come to her and sit with her. So the different ashrams were eventually run by a organization called the Anandamayi Sangha, which is still running it. And it's a collection of East Bengali Brahmins who are orthodox to the point of superstition, frankly. And so the ashrams held all these very orthodox rules, which included a marked dislike of foreigners, I guess you could say, or prejudice against foreigners, because they were considered, you know, born out without a caste. And so when we were with Ma was always so gracious and so kind. But at the ashram, there were so many rules, and we'd always be excluded. We couldn't eat with them. If we were in a room and they carried water through, they'd have to throw it out. If we walked into the kitchen, they would throw all the food out. You know, there are all these orthodox rules of purity, which we seem by our very presence to disrupt. And Ma allowed it. I personally think it was Ma's Leela that it was so supernatural being with Ma that if there wasn't some kind of barb to prevent people, the whole world would have just come with her and just be flooding around in a big party. So she let this happen, I think, to test who was really there to be with her and who was there just to have a good time or to take it easy. Because it wasn't easy. First of all, she traveled constantly. So we had to constantly kind of be keeping up with her and trying to find where to go and everything. But these rules of orthodoxy, obviously, well, two things. I think Ma showed that they are important. They are important in the keeping. It's interesting. So Ma says you can become a Hindu or you can only become a member of any community or any religion by manifesting the trace of that religion in our own lives, in our own heart, and in our own disciplines and way of thought and way of acting. So that's very interesting to answer. Yeah. Okay, I want to open up the floor now to have any kind of discussion. If people have questions about their readings or comments about their readings or just anything, let's try to keep the discussion focused on Ma, because we're here to really, in our short time we have together, we want to think of Ma and remember Ma and how her teachings are relevant to us. But if anyone has any observations, I'd love to hear how people came to Ma or just anything related to today's meeting. Please speak up. Think just unmute, yeah, and just speak. Yes, Architect.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got this new iPad. I'm trying to figure it out. So when you were talking about how it feels or how it felt to be around Ma, what has always struck me was when I was with her, it was like being like a mirror. It was like, that's the only thing I can think of is like, it was like holding a mirror up. Just because everything was so clear and you could see, also you could not just, there was no personality. It was just like seeing yourself, but yourself, not your ego self, but yourself. And so that's what I mean by, it was like having a mirror. And then also she reflected back whatever was in your consciousness, which was kind of in some ways creepy because it wasn't always lofty, basically. So it was just like crystals, like lots of crystals, and you'd see different aspects of yourself and what was in your consciousness. And then it's like she knew you completely. Could be quite intimidating.
Yeah, thank you, Abhijit. That's true. This great pundit, Gopinath Kaviraj, was mentioned earlier. He wrote several things on Ma because he was considered the most brilliant pundit in all of India. And he adored Ma. And he wrote several things on his observations of what he saw from the scriptures about who Ma was. But he said an interesting thing. He said, he said, you can go to other saints, other teachers, and they'll be filled with sattva guna, this quality of light and purity. And they'll be filled with this sattva guna. So when you come near them, you feel very good. You feel, you're kind of bathed in radiance and sattva guna. He said Ma was triguna tita. That means beyond the gunas, beyond the attributes of nature. She was something far beyond that. So he said those who came to Ma, what would happen is she would bring everything out. It was beyond the gunas. So she was like, just as you say, Avrita, she would like just cleanse you. You would see your own self reflected in her, and just being near it can be sometimes uncomfortably intense. Many times wonderful and great, other times uncomfortably intense. And she would bring things out. And Ma herself said at one point, she said, those who come with this body have everything brought out from inside of them. She said, it's not good to hold snakes in your bosom. They will eventually bite you. So come near me and I'll pull them out of those caverns. So yeah, so Ma was an intense experience all around. So yeah, thank you, Abhijit. It's very true. It was a cleansing experience to be with Ma, and you just see yourself reflected in her.
Well, I know that I've been a meditator for many years and started practicing Vipassana in '83. And what I can compare it to, being with her, is like doing intense meditation for weeks and months. It's like just being with her. It's like if you practice meditation, mindfulness meditation, and certain things become clear to you through this practice of meditation, just being with her for like 30 seconds would be like a lot of meditation, because it takes that long, at least for me, meditating as it did just being in her presence, if that makes sense. I mean, the clarity that one gets from meditation, the realizations and the awareness, basically. In a fraction of a second being with Ma, it's like all these years like you've been practicing in a second, like. I have no concept of time, excuse me, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, undoubtedly, very true. And still true to this day. You know, we say, you know, to be with Ma was incredible, but still true to this day. The reason we keep tuning into Ma, all of us are here, because she still is this receptacle of incredible spiritual power and energy. And in our meditation, if we just sit and try to meditate, okay, that's one thing. But if we have her picture there, if we think of her, if we pray to her, say her name, kind of tune into her presence, and then meditate, it's the same thing. Really and truly, still, Ma is there to help any spiritual aspirant, and she gives her grace and she makes the path clearer and easier. So that she's an infinite resource of spirituality even now. So it doesn't matter if people didn't see her in person, she still is that. That's what's so wonderful. Excuse me.
Ilona has her hand up.
Yeah, Ilona.
Hey there. Thank you so much for being here and doing this. 2 questions. So one is in Pranya's reading or translation, talks about the scriptures. Which scriptures is she referring to? And the other is, clearly Ma was this amazing deity. And is it accurate to say that she was a conduit of a higher power, which some of us may call God?
Well, to answer the second question first, as Ma said, I am whatever you think I think me to be. So I think everyone has to answer that themselves. But in our tradition, we don't think of Ma as a conduit to God. We think of Ma was like literally just that divine presence. She wasn't like an individual entity. She said this body was brought down by your prayers and your aspirations. So we feel she was just a manifestation of that perfect unitive consciousness. One sense, there wasn't a person of Anandamayi Ma. She took that name. Someone gave it to her, and she's invoked by it. But in one sense, she was just the presence of God in the world. Now, you know, if you believe in Avatar, this is real simple. But if you don't believe that, it's okay too. Just know, Ma said, I am whatever you think I am. So whatever Ma means to you, that's what she is. And there were people who just thought she was a little old, you know, Bengali widow with stringy hair. So she was that to them. You know, other people thought she was a divine Purushottama, the fullness of God, and she was that to them. So it's kind of up to us also. So, and our tradition, if you ask any Ma devotee, do you think Ma was a conduit of God? They would say, no, Ma was God. But again, the more you tune into Ma, the more her definition will change by your own experience. And then you ask, what scriptures was she referring to? That's a good question. She said the Shastras. There are things, I think it's called the Manu Smriti, where it talks about just rules of life and attributes of character that should be developed. There are some very practical, in the Hindu Shastras, there are many practical things you can find. I mean, I couldn't tell you right offhand what she was referring to. But, you know, many times people came to Ma and said, Ma, I'm a Muslim. And she would say, I'm a Muslim also. People would say, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian also. So on one level, she didn't identify with any religion. And she didn't want to make people one religion. That question was about Hindu dharma. But she didn't want people to be a particular religion. She wanted people to find God in whatever context that required. But she did take birth as a Bengali Brahmin. And she did take birth within Sanatana Dharma, and all her references, and when she refers to scriptures as Hindu scriptures, and her, you know, the pujas that went on, kind of her whole lifestyle was within what we could call Hindu Dharma or Hindu culture, Sanatana Dharma. But she also spoke out of that. In fact, one time there was a satsang going on, and Ma started speaking spontaneously, and she was speaking in a very different way, a different context. The people who knew her speech thought, what is Ma saying? Kind of the same thing she usually does, but she's couching it in such different language. And then it turned out there was a whole delegation of Buddhist monks that had come and were sitting. And when they came up after and said, Ma, you spoke exactly from our scriptures, almost word for word. Your whole way of expressing was totally Buddhistic. You know? So she just, Ma spontaneously just expressed herself in that way, you know. So, but I guess you could say Ma was a Hindu, but I don't think she would even agree with that. No, she was anything. She was everything. Yeah. But it is interesting. She did express herself through Hinduism and through Hindu Dharma. Yeah.
Shaku has her hand up next.
Yes, please. Shaku.
I wanted to say about the reading that Pragya read, that to me, in my interpretation of that, and I'm open for correction, that could apply to anybody, not just Westerners who want to be Hindu, but Hindus who want to be Hindu, or, you know, whatever you're born into, it seemed to apply to everyone. I think that was she broadened the question. In the answer is broader than the question, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. She answered on kind of all different levels. It is true. I think that to me, the gist of that reading is you have to really be what you claim to be. You know, you can't just get a little sticker or a bumper sticker that says, I am a Hindu. You know, are you a Hindu by your life, by your state of mind? And that's a high bar. Ma always had a very high bar, even to be a human being. Many times, if you read Ma's words, sometimes she says, this is what it's meant to be a human being. She says, manush, which is the Sanskrit word for human, means manush, awakened mind. She says, only those who have an awakened mind are human. And there's several times she gives the definition of human, and it's a high bar for any of us, you know, to keep. So she had very high standards. And yeah, it is true. There's a whole, if you read the Dhammapada, the words of the Buddha and the Dhamma, recorded in the Dhammapada, he has a whole thing about what is a Brahmin. And he just says, you know, a Brahmin is someone who has these attributes, 1, 2, 3, very divine attributes. And just, you know, wearing a sacred thread or, claiming you're a Brahmin is different than being a Brahmin. So yeah, I think Ma wants us to really be what we're supposed to be. Yeah.
I wanted to say something else. It's a thought I've had just recently, because I'm doing inner child work for myself, like psychology, kind of like re-parenting my inner child. And I know I've wondered ever since I found out about Ma, why she refers to herself as this little child. And she wants us to think of her as a little child. And I couldn't figure that out, but now I'm starting to, because when I talk to this inner child, and I'll confess, I actually bought a baby doll so I could do this and it would feel more realistic. And I see how innocent that little face is. And and Ma is with, you know, when I'm doing this work, I have a picture of Ma. So I've got Ma, me, and the baby, which is also me. And Ma is also me. So we're all like one thing. And I can't explain it, but I'm starting to get a clue as to why she referred to herself as a baby or a small child, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that take before. I know Ma said, when you refer to me as Ma, you put a distance between us because you have to respect a mother, but everyone loves and kind of coddles a little girl. So she said, I'm just a little girl. Think of me that, make room in your heart for this little girl. So in one way, she wants us to be intimate with her, you know, really, really not she doesn't feel any distance between herself and us. She feels, you know, that total unity. So the distance is on our side. That's interesting, the inner child thing. My wife, Gloria, who, by the way, sends her regards. I'm not at home. I am in self-quarantine after my trip for 3 days. So I'm in this little storage apartment here. She sends her love and regards to everybody. I'm quarantined from her for the time being. So I feel like make sure I don't have COVID.
Love to Gloria.
Thank you. Gloria has this thing about the inner child too. I think women get that more than men. She has a thing about feeding the inner child. I personally don't feel I have an inner child. You know, I don't relate to my inner being that way. But I mean, a lot of people do, and that's good. So maybe Ma is the inner child, which you're trying to discover. You know,
it's a very healing experience for me. And I feel, I don't know, stronger inside or something. And I feel more connected. And I feel more connected to Ma. And sometimes I see that little baby in my arms as me, and sometimes I see it as Ma. And I have this thing that I say, that I pray, you know, I put my trusting hand in yours and ask you to guide me through my day. And I take the little baby doll hand and I feel like the baby is leading me. If it's all kind of an imagination thing, but it has a really healing property.
That's beautiful. And like I say, whatever works. That's the important thing. Yeah. And we have to do it. I think that's a good example. We have to figure out how to heal ourselves in the sense that we turn to God, but there's all this inner work we have to do to straighten out the tangles in our own mind and heart. And anything that works, I mean, that's great. That's great. You find something that's relevant. I think it's wonderful. Very good. Yeah. Is somebody else just unmute and speak up?
I'd like to speak. It's Julia. I remember the community of the ashram and the Westerners that were there. And if there was a festival day, the pujas would go on hours and hours and hours. And there was no water and there was no food. And it was long, you may recall too. And then prasad would be served, but not to the Westerners. Westerners waited until all prasad was completed by the Hindus, and then they were served. It's the first time I, as a white person, have ever experienced anything like that. And I think it had a teaching, without a doubt. And the other thing I want to say is that being with Ma opened this vast window, it seemed, of the space that is sacred to all traditions without labeling it. And I felt when Prajna was reading that was the message that Ma was saying. I originally went to India because of the death of my father, and I couldn't relate to the teachings of death in Christianity. In India, of course, one sees death everywhere. It's almost a daily vision. And now, as I'm older and nearing my death, I am fascinated in the teachings of death in Christianity. And I look at it through the window that Ma has gifted me. That's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's true. I was raised Christian, but it's true when you study Sanatana Dharma and you see the vastness of it and the infinitude of it, and you kind of get that worldview, you can go back and look, like you read the Gospels of Christ, you realize, oh my God, this is a great Mahayogi. And you can see it, you see it through that lens. Like Paramahansa Yogananda wrote a beautiful commentary on the Gospels of Christ through the eyes of an Eastern yogi, and it's so different. Yeah, that's very good. And talking about this kind of caste prejudice within the ashram, I wrote about it in my book. I probably told it before, but let me bring it up again. This seems relevant. One time we were in in Kankal when they opened that big Shankaracharya hall. It was like 1974, I think. And we were there. I was there for the puja, and several Westerners were there. Abhinanda was there, Krishna Priya, Gadadhar, and Malika Mashburn. All these people were there. And so of course we couldn't go in, or the whole puja would be ruined. So we were kind of sitting outside, looking in this big hall, and the puja's going on, and Ma sitting there. And Ma, to our amazement, Ma came out and stood with us on the porch, and she said, and she apologized to her. She said, "I'm so sorry you can't come in." She said, "Many Shud Brahmins, many pure Brahmins come to this body, and if we didn't keep these strict orthodox rules, they wouldn't be able to come. So more of them come than foreigners. So we have to keep these rules." But she was so sweet. She said, "I'm so sorry. I don't want you to feel neglected." And she said, "I have specifically arranged to have some food made for you across the street. So go across right now. We got some puris." And so we traveled across the street and we had this food, and we came back, and Ma came out again, and she said, asked each one of us, "How many puris did you eat? How you did? Did you like the food? Was it good?" It was just so sweet. So, it was a necessity, and I think it was part of Ma's leader that she would make it too easy. Are you through, Shama? Is there anything else you want to share?
Oh, that's all. Thank you so much.
Okay, I want to introduce someone who just came on. It's under the name of Divine Grace Yoga Ashram. I was telling you about our Contemplative Alliance retreat. This is Swami Shankarananda. Are you there, Swamiji? There he is. This is Swami from.
Oh, no, Shivaya. I'm sorry for coming late. I was on a
I was on a yoga teacher training call, but I wanted to join in
So
and have your darshans. Thank you.
Swamiji has a beautiful ashram that we visited just when it was a Saturday, and outside of Tucson. And again, Ma's there in the photo on the wall on the altar. You know, Ma was present there. And Swamiji, sorry you missed it. We started with the kirtan, and then we have a reading from Ma's live, and then we had our dear Pragya is reading transcribed satsangs of Ma. So we've had those, and now we're just kind of having a discussion. But I'm so happy.
Beautiful, and it's on my calendar, and I'll do my best to make at least some of it or the whole program when I can. So I'm so grateful. Thank
Very
you.
good. Very, very welcome to hear. So I'm just so happy. Okay, so if you have any questions, we're now we have just kind of an open floor. People are just asking questions or telling about their impression of the reading or whatever. If you have anything you want to add, I'm happy to hear from you.
Welcome, Swamiji. And we have a couple hands up. We have Michael and then Charlotte and then Frank wanted to say something.
Okay. Randy's in charge here, so you just go call them in order.
Yes, hi. I wanted to follow up a little on the Buddhist thread. Arpita mentioned that she was a long time Vipassana meditator, and so am I. And I was wondering, like, in the Theravadan Buddhist view, there's a lot of emphasis on kind of deconstructing the personality view, which says, you know, anything psychologically speaking, like I'm good, I'm bad, I'm a success, I'm a failure, you know, I'm beautiful, I'm ugly, and we keep compounding this self view, the small s self view, and a lot of their practices are aimed at deconstructing that, you know, so that our original Buddha nature comes, you know, becomes primary. So I was wondering, in Ma's work, how does she approach this? Does she have any, is it just surrendering to Ma, or, you know, when these ideas of self-view come up, any wisdom there from any of you?
Well, Arpita, can you answer according to your, because since you're a Buddhist practitioner more, although and also was with Ma, what is your answer?
Hi. So
go ahead.
What struck me when you were speaking is, I think that what Ma says is the deconstruction. She doesn't use those kinds of terms, but obviously, but it's, in other words, connecting yourself with the higher self, with her or with God. And so in that way, through that vehicle, one deconstructs one's ego self. So that would be the way I interpret it. That's the way I think of what she's saying and how she works with that, or how she wants us to work with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's kind of the way I was thinking of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the smaller self connecting and identifying with the higher self, with the God, with the God self, the God consciousness.
So there's kind of just this, you know, awareness of, oh, I'm selfing, and then I can just let that go to Ma, or let that go to the higher, my higher.
Yeah,
being.
and like through different I don't know if the word is techniques, but like serving people, for example,
right,
is a way to deconstruct the self.
And in the Buddhist path, it can just be like coming into the body, coming into an embodied presence.
Yeah, right.
And that can just deconstruct it by itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my vehicle is the Buddhist way and embodied consciousness as well, but and sometimes have this cognitive dissonance there, but it works out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
In our ashram in India, you know, for years we studied Ma's teachings so intensely. And I one period also helps our Swami Kedarnath, who was the head of our ashram in Indore, who was a great scholar as well as a yogi. and we were categorizing some of Ma's words into different subjects and things. And it was seen that if you kind of look at an overview of how she expressed herself at different times, Ma spoke almost always from this pinnacle of like perfect divine unity in what we call Advaita, which is absolute non-duality. That was a platform she spoke from, but then she spoke about practices, she spoke about devotion to God, God's name. That was the main instrument she talked about as far as working with his mantras and divine names. But then at different times with different people, she would express herself differently. Like if you read the book, Words of Anandamayi Ma, that was taken down by over a period of several months by this one particular Swami, I forget his name, in the Varanasi ashram, who was a great Vedantist. So when she spoke to Ma, through him, he was pulling it out of her in a different way, in a sense. You know, Ma said, I'm just a drum, and however you play me is how you're going to hear me. So he was pulling it out of her in a different way. Like I said earlier, those Buddhist scholars came to her, and she expressed herself completely the Buddhist way. But I think ultimately, the Buddhists have this thing of anatma, there's no self. I mean, the Buddha talked about that. Ultimately, it's the same thing. We're saying the same thing because Ma is saying there is no small separate self. You are a part of that unity. So she's not saying, and so she's not saying you don't have an existence as a being, but she's saying you don't have an existence. We built this small wall around ourselves. We let our consciousness go out and we just think we're the body and we're just the mind. So we're just this little small separate entity from everything else. And that's what all the religious traditions say is the problem, the basic problem. So our idea, through anyway. But again, we were saying earlier, what Sue is doing. What's your name? Shaku is doing, and what Arpita is doing, what you're doing. We're finding a way that works, that meshes with our inner mechanisms that we can work with. But the idea is we just ultimately we enter into the unity. We stop seeing ourselves as separate. We stop, not intellectually, we stop experiencing ourselves as separate, and that only comes about through the inner work. That will never be intellectualized or rationalized to a point where we can experience that. It has to be through our consciousness going inward in whatever form we use, whatever path we use. The idea is we internalize our mind so that we see our consciousness clearly for what it is and we experience what we are. And then we all experience the same thing, that we're part of that great unity. And Ma, as we said earlier, we think that she was an avatar of that great unity. So she's such an asset to call upon because she's there's have you heard we've never done it here. We have a Ma Chalisa, just like we have a Hanuman Chalisa. We have a beautiful composition that a contemporary devotee wrote many years ago called the Ma Chalisa. So you can sing it to any melody the Hanuman Chalisa is sung in, and there's a beautiful phrase in it. We say Chira Advaita Dvaita Tamanashini. You are the Chira Advaita. You are the preacher, the spreader of Advaita, non-duality. Dvaita Tamanashini, you are the destroyer, Nashini, feminine, of duality. So if we meditate on Ma, she will destroy duality in us and bring out that unity which we are. I think it's a very good question, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. We should have lunch again.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, for sure. Was it Frank? Who's next, Rainy?
Next is Charlotte, and then Frank, and then Carla.
Okay, Charlotte.
Hi, I'm doing better today. I just wanted to say about the inner child and my relationship to Ma. I feel like, she is me, and she's also like me as the little child, and she's also like my mom. And I feel like she helps me to raise myself because I grew up I was kind of a latchkey kid, and I'm at this point where I'm using her as my mom in some ways to re-raise me, but she's also that inner child. She's also me and that part of myself.
That's totally logical. Any devotee would agree with you. It is true. She's everything, and she will be everything. She'll submit to being however we can relate to her. She'll be a child. Like I think we're talking at the conference how a distressed mother came to Ma, who just lost her daughter, and she was so distressed she couldn't be consoled. And Ma started talking to her, so sweetie. And then the lady said, "My God, you're talking in my daughter's voice, my daughter's very physical voice you're expressing." And Ma said, "I'm your daughter. I'll be your daughter. Don't worry." And so she kind of took the place of that recently deceased child. So Ma will be that. Ma will be our inner child if we want her to be. Ma will be our mother. She is our mother. That's the thing. As you said earlier, she said she was the Vyakta Rupa, the manifested form of all the longing of mankind. So she's all our condensed longing and for aspiration for something. She's the answer to that prayer. So she's relevant to everybody. And we just find our own way of relating to her to make her more relevant in our daily lives. So that's good. That's nice, Charlotte. Good.
That's so sweet. Thank you for saying that. She also feels like my best friend too, but then it's like, no, wait, she's more like, I feel like I'm getting a lot of like what to do, what not to do type of stuff kind of internally, and more like a mom. But I think when I first met her, she felt like my best friend. So
that's good too. That's interesting. Ma always said she called married men and women, Mataji and Pitaji, mother and father. She would say, "You're my mother and father." But unmarried people and children, she would call my friend. She would say, "Dost, mera dost." So she is our best friend. We had a lady come to Satsang a while back, a few months ago. She's not here now. Who said that Ma was her imaginary playmate when she was a little girl. She didn't realize who Ma was, but she had this lady who was Indian lady with black hair, and she was her imaginary playmate. It was only when she became an adult that she saw Ma's photo, and she said, "Hey, that's my playmate," which is cool. Ma can be our playmate. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Jema. Next up, we got Frank.
Hey there, Frank.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
I wanted to share an experience that I had. I wanted just to share with everyone. I wanted to share it on May 1st, but we didn't have the time to do that. But hope everybody can hear me.
Yeah, you're good.
So I'm gonna try this without crying. So let's see. So on April the 30th, being Mom's birthday, it was probably about 3 and like maybe 3 in the morning. But you see, I've always heard stories of devotees talking about, oh, that Ma came in their dream and this, and this and that, and a little bit of me is like, why don't I get that? A little jealousy, I guess. And I've been with Ma now I've been with her probably all my life, but just following her and her teachings and everything about 2 years. So during those 2 years, I will always ask Ma, I would love to see you in my dreams. I will love to prasad, to bow, to pranam, and just to worship your feet. I will love that experience. I will please, if you can, please. And days will go and nothing. Well, on April 30th, I'm just dreaming. And all of a sudden in my dream, I see Ma like coming to me with 2 gentlemen holding her side. And I'm getting chills. So I seen her as as her as the older, more older. I saw everything. I saw her whole image, her feet, her little socks, her little sandals that she wore, and I saw everything, and I just fell at her feet, and I just started bowing, and I wanted to cry, but because I'm not in a physical body, how can I cry? So I just was trying to cry, and I was trying to share tears, but I just couldn't. And as I was bowing to her, she didn't say nothing. She just kind of turned to walk away, and as I was there bowing, I touched her back of her foot, and right away I let go, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do that." I don't know where that came from. I was like, "I don't think I'm supposed to do that." But as I was there bowing, I looked over, and I saw others there too, others bowing to her. And so as I'm kind of seeing this, I wake up and I sleep with the mask on. So as I was kind of letting this play, as I was letting this play out, I kind of turned over to my wife here, and I can see in the like inside my mask, I can see lights flashing, white, pink lights, yellow lights, all flashing, boom, 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 boom. And I kind of first I thought it was her with her cell phone, and I was just seeing her light from her cell phone. So I went like this, and I didn't see her doing that. And I was just like, okay. So then I turned around and I looked up, and as soon as I looked up and everything came, I just started to cry. I just started to cry, and I was crying. And it was just an experience, because I got it in her birthday, and instead of me giving her something, she gave me something. So that was just so touching. But I feel like that she didn't only come to me. I think all those other people were having the same dream. You know, so I know that there was more that she appeared to and blessed, and with her grace and her darshan. And after that, I was just like, I don't know, like I had no more. I think all my desires left. Like everything I ever wanted just appeared, you know, right in front of me. To me, Ma is God, so it was getting a, you know, darshan from God, you know, and it was just something so touching that I'm not gonna forget it ever. And it just changed me inside. Like I don't have no desires, like nothing. I don't desire anything from the world, nothing. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel something, I don't know, a unity, oneness, Brahman, something, you know, so.
That's really beautiful, Frank. Thank you for sharing with all of us. This is the place you can share it. This is what we're for. This is community here. We understand that's really, really good. That's super good. That's so precious. And it is true. When you have an experience, either in meditation or in dreams, the real result is your consciousness outside of that now. How has it affected you? That's so beautiful. Yeah, they say that I've read that if you have a dream of a saint or an avatar or something, that's always really them, because the subconscious mind is making our dreams, and it's not capable of actually making the form of a saint. Something about it, we just can't do that. So when they come and they show themselves, they're really there. That's beautiful. I know we all long for dreams of Ma. I mean, my whole life, I've only had like a handful of times, really. I mean, years will go by and I dream of Ma, but it's always so wonderful. I can say fairly recently, I might have even shared this, but fairly recently I had a nice dream of her. And this also shows me how it changed from a dream to what was really happening. I have these amazing dreams where I had the, you know, history and cast of thousands and beautiful tropical locations and everything. So I was in the midst of one of these ridiculous dreams, you know, all this stuff was going on. And I remember I think I was with Gloria too. We were walking along, and I remembered, oh yeah, Ma is staying with us. So we should go back home. I thought, okay, you know, so we go back home. And I was in some big house or something. So I walked around the corner, and there was Ma sitting on the floor on a little asana. So I started walking towards her, and as I walked, each step I took suddenly got more and more real. And something in my mind said, "Hey, this is really happening." You know. So I walked up and I knelt down, and I could say her little chapel. She wore the paduka we have on our altar at home, or wooden, but she usually wore these kind of stiff canvas paduka chapel sandals. You know. So her little sandals, she had little small feet. So her little sandals were sitting there, she'd taken off, and she was sitting down, and I walked it, and I could say each step I took closer to her, it was more real. And I realized this is really her, you know. So I bowed down like this, and my hand was like this. My forehead was on the ground, and my hands were in front. And she just reached out and she went like that, you know, just real gently, like, kind of. And I woke up, and I know you always start crying when that happens. And now whenever I bow, I think of Ma reaching out and stroking my hand, so I always make sure it's out there. Yeah, but it's precious. You can't, and the desire is there. The fact that you're longing, that's the thing we have to do. Like there's even a great bhajan by Kabir. He says, Darshan DJ Kola Divar, open the door and give me darshan. That should be our only prayer. It's okay to pray to Ma for certain things that we need, but our real prayer should be, give me darshan. I pray every day, Ma, my one prayer, may I come into your presence. May I, in my inmost consciousness, may I come into your presence and then see things as they are. So you're longing what brought Ma's response. And on her birthday, it's true. See, in India, we think of giving presents. From India, if it's a kid's birthday at school, they have a bag of chocolate they give out to other people. The custom in India is you give out gifts to other people on your birthday. So it's true. Mom was just giving you a little piece of chocolate there. Good piece of chocolate. Thank you for sharing that, Frank. That was beautiful. Really, really nice. And here, this is family. We can always share these things with each other here. It's very sweet. This is, you don't want to talk about these things to people who don't believe or had coarse minds that wouldn't understand it. But among family, among devotees, you can talk about these things. We understand.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. That was really awesome, as usual. Thanks for the share. And then we have Carla up next.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. That was so beautiful. And on the theme of the holy child, the inner child, I just wanted to show my my Divino Nino candle, the baby Jesus. And I don't know what it is, but I just love the infant, the holy child. Like there's baby Shiva, baby Krishna, right? And baby Jesus. And so I just wanted to share that idea or the sense of the holy child within us, and the inner child is also the holy child, and Ma being the, I haven't heard of the baby Ma, but I'm sure there is baby Ma, baby Ma. And the other thing I wanted to ask, tonight is supposed to be a really powerful lunar eclipse. And so I just wondered if Ma ever said anything about these cosmic events like a lunar eclipse, or if there were practices around them. I don't know, but I wondered if you know anything about it.
I'm not familiar with the lunar eclipse so much. The solar eclipse are considered inauspicious, amangala, in India, because they say they feel that when the sun is eclipsed, it pulls energy out, and so they'll actually put kusha grass around the murtis in a temple to keep being drawn out. And they'll say during a solar eclipse, you're not supposed to cook food or eat food. They even say don't even go outside. You're supposed to sit and do meditation. Wow. I don't know if a lunar eclipse, for some reason, I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if a lunar eclipse is considered auspicious or inauspicious, because it's a totally different entity. It's a different light altogether. Interesting. I don't know, but interesting about the baby, the inner child thing. Going back to that, in the Vaishnava tradition, in the scriptures, there's I think 4 different bhavas, or the bhava is your soul feeling of how you relate to something, of relating to God, and one of them is Vatsalya bhava. And that means the bhava of a mother to a child. Now you have the attitude of Lord and servant, or friend and companion, or beloved, like a lover, like Radha and Krishna. And this thing of Vatsalya is the mother to the child. So that's very common. Like you have in the Christian tradition, they have the infant of Prague. They take care of the baby Jesus. In India, you have relating to and dealing with Gopala. You have Gopala Krishna, the small murti, and people will feed it. I know a lot of devotees do this. They'll feed the little Gopala and take it around. And that draws on like our maternal instincts. I think it's especially good for mothers. They look on God as their child, and that's so it's a beautiful bhava, because you're not trying to get something out of your child. You're giving it. You're giving and taking care of it and offering. So it's a beautiful bhava. So that's a very, you can say, traditional bhava, the Vatsalya, the motherhood, relating to God as mother to child. You are the mother, and
yes, and we're the mother of our own divine child too. I mean, that's the other piece that I feel like we're learning how to care for our divine child within. So
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. That's nice. That's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prema. Somebody else?
That's it for the hands raised, and nobody else has reached out on chat or anything. It's like 2:40. So
I'll make a.
Yes, someone.
Can I be?
Read, yes.
Hi, this is Reed. For some reason, I don't see myself on the screen, but I just wanted to add
the way that I relate to all of this is it's this very primal bond that is stronger than any other bond and more nurturing than any other bond I've ever experienced. And it's like a mother and child. It's so fundamental and it's so unconditional. And it's so unifying because, you know, it's almost like the child in the womb. It's like my relationship with Ma when it's happening, when I'm really focused, is like a baby in a womb. And there's no separation between me and her. Yeah, that's about, just wanted to add that.
That's beautiful, Reed. Yeah, it is interesting. Again, you know, we look at Ma, however you look at Ma, there's no wrong way, you know, however we relate to her. But traditionally, in this lineage, we do look on her as an avatar, a descent of the divine. And it's interesting, it's interesting to see in this time, she came as a woman, she came as a mother. Mother, you know, she didn't have children of her own because she was a Kanda brahmachari, but we were all her children. She came in that bhava of a mother to us. It is true. And it's really interesting at this time also, she came as a woman. And she said many times that women now, we're at a point where women have to step forward, be acknowledged, be empowered, and have more and more to do with the running of the world. She said that very specifically many times, that she herself, throughout her life, she did things to help women's rights. She said, she would tell the devotees, include your sister, your wife, your daughter in your practices. Let women have a chance. She would always, and back women had more access to her than men. Women would be around her, you know, combing her hair and taking care of her and everything. The men would have to be off a little bit. So it's interesting. Ma did come this time as a mother, as a woman, and as the embodiment of this Shakti of the universe, this great feminine power, which is the power that runs the universe. It's so relevant. We see more and more daily how relevant it is, and how I think her presence is waking women up, even if they don't know who she is or never heard of her. That Shakti she brought in the world is helping to let women come into their rights, to their real place, after being suppressed for so long. So yeah, it's very beautiful. Ma came as a mother, as a woman. Anybody else? And so we'll move on a little bit. Okay, this I'm really grateful. Everyone's discussion here was really good. Yeah, Rainey?
On the chat, there was one person, Barbara, who's saying that regarding the eclipse thing, similar practice as solar eclipse, the mantra is exponentially more powerful at the time of the eclipse, start to finish. And she says 12:15 a.m. Eastern, this eclipse in Vashaka Nakshatra. So it must be some kind of, you know, Indian astrology thing. So
beautiful.
But that's what.
Yeah, if we can, if you're awake, meditate during the time. It's always better. There are times where suddenly your meditation is more intense. Like I say, I just came back from a week in Sedona. It was really nice meditating in Sedona. It's just a very, very intense energy in the place. And I lived for 12 years by the Narmada River in India. And Narmada River has this amazing Shakti that's just for the sadhus. That's why from time immemorial, sadhus have lived along the banks of the Narmada, because this special Shiva Shakti that comes through the river makes meditation really easy. So yeah, we should try to take advantage of these things.
I just want to say one thing, that today is Vesak, which is the celebration of the Buddha's birthday, the day Buddha was born. So this is traditionally Vesak, Vesak. So it's a special day.
Oh, it's very auspicious, wonderful. And don't they celebrate all three things: his birth, his enlightenment, and his Mahanirvana?
Yeah.
The same day he was born, the later he attained illumination, later left his body on the same day. Beautiful. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just thought of that. Yeah.
Good. These days have power. Really good. Okay, well then let's go on as we usually do. Just a moment, I gotta share my screen here. I like to give darshan. Ma now gives darshan through her photos. So let me get back to share screen.
And then if you're going to be singing, make sure to do the sound.
Remind me, external memory. Okay, so let's have Darshanama and let's sing this kirtan. And Renu is going to dutifully put the words on the screen, so you can open up the chat box at the bottom. On the bottom of your screen, you have little things that chat. If you click on that, a little box opens up at the side. You can still see Ma, and we'll sing a nice little kirtan. Now the words. See, we say. Remember, one of Ma's self-definitions was Purna Brahma Narayana. So in this thing, we also say Purna Brahma Narayana, and then we say Kali Kapalani Ma. You are the living Kali. Kali Kapalani means the one who wears this garland of skulls. In other words, she takes our ego off and just wears it as an adornment. Kali Kapalani Ma. And later we say Karuna Sagari Ma. That means you are an ocean of compassion. Karuna. Sagar is ocean. Sagari is ocean feminine. So Karuna Sagari Ma. You are an ocean of compassion. Patita Pavani Ma. That means you're the lifter up of the fallen. Isn't that beautiful, beautiful words? So let's let me share screen. And we'll look at Ma as we sing. Okay, let's see that good thing. Anandamayi Ma, 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 Purna Brahma Narayani, Purna Brahma Narayani, Purna Brahma Narayani, Purna Brahma Narayani, Kali Kapalani Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Kali Kapalani Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Ma Ma oh Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Jagadambe Jai Jai Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi Ma, Anandamayi So we can keep Ma's photo up and let's sit and practice the way Ma insisted we can practice, doing spiritual practice. So if we just sit quietly, we can either look at Ma's photo or we can just have our eyes closed with the body relaxed, the spine upright and straight. And we relax the body and let go of the body. And we relax the mind and let go of the mind. Just drop the thinking process, let it just relax and unwind. We become aware of the present moment, making sure our mind is just resting in the infinity of this moment, here, now. no past, no future, no definition. Just awareness, consciousness, I am. And in that awareness, we just watch the breath. We just feel the breath ahead of us, touching the nostrils, going into the chest. We just watch the full measure of the breath without controlling it in its natural rhythm, letting it just flow in and out, letting the continuity of the breath bring continuity of consciousness right here and now, being aware. No thoughts. The thoughts come, we can't stop thoughts. We let them just pass by like a river, and we stay resting in the breath, letting the mind be soothed by the breath. And then we add whatever mantra we work with, whatever word of power, to flow with the natural rhythm of the breath. If we want, we can use Om Ma. So if we breathe in, we mentally intone Om Ma. As we exhale, Om Ma. If the mind runs out, we just bring it back to the breath, the mantra, in the moment, letting the mantra vibrate in the breath. Breathe the mantra and feel Ma's presence. Call out to her. Call out to her, love her, cry to her. Sarve santu niramaya Sarve badrani pashyantu Ma kaschid dukkha bhave. May all beings be happy. May all be free from suffering. May all look to the good of others. May all experience the unity of life. Om Asatom Asatgamaya Tamasomha Jyotirgamaya Mrityurmamritam Gamaya Aviravirmedhi. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. This fullness proceeds from that fullness. When fullness comes from fullness, yet only fullness remains. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Shri Anandamayi Mata Ki Jai. Apne apne Satgurudev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Om Namah Parvati Patye Hara Hara Mahadev. So let's end with last words of instruction from Ma to take away with us in this gathering. Someone asked Ma, since we just meditated and we experienced sometimes a difficulty in meditation. Question, does the capacity to meditate come by practice in this life, or is it an aptitude acquired in former births? Good question. Ma replies, it may be the result of either of the two or both combined. Meditation should be practiced every day of one's life. Look, what is there in this world? Absolutely nothing that is lasting. Therefore, direct your longing towards the eternal. Pray that the work done through you, his instrument, may be pure. In every action, remember him. The purer your thinking, the finer will be your work. In this world, you get a thing, and by tomorrow, it may be gone. This is why your life should be spent in a spirit of service. Feel that the Lord is accepting services from you in whatever you do. If you desire peace, you must cherish the thought of him. The wonderful Soma leaves us with this final word, practice. We have to keep practicing. We have to keep our thoughts and our hearts directed towards Ma and our actions towards in her service in whatever way we can. So thank you.
The video from the school.
Oh yeah. Did you paste it in? So Rainu has pasted in. We're doing a fundraiser for our school in India now, which is Ma Shodanam School, the Refuge of Ma, which is as you know, some of you of course been there, is for very poor village children in the area around our ashram, and they also do all these incredible programs. They have a program for women teaching the skills, health program for people, a program with farmers. I mean, they do such good work there. And we lost our nonprofit at the beginning of COVID, and now Swami Gurushodan and Orai cannot really travel and tour. They wish to raise funds, so they're really in need of funds to kill this semester. So Renu pasted in a beautiful video we just recently made, the most recent video about our school on YouTube, which copy down and look and take a look at that. It's really beautiful. And then there's also a place if you want. I know people are giving a lot of money to Ukraine, and that's good. But if you have anything left over for these poor kids, you can donate by credit card in this very safe and secure link we have now. We're working with this app called Give India. Okay, so copy down that and from your text, and if you feel inspired, you can help the kids, the children of Ma. Okay, so thank everybody for coming. It's been a wonderful satsang, and thank our dear, is he still here? Our Swami Shankarananda for joining us. I think he may have left. And all of you, every one of you are precious. This is our community in Ma. We're all one family in Ma, and it's so good to meet like this and discuss and remember Ma together. So God bless all of you. Jai Ma. If you want to unmute and say goodbye, that's good too.
Jai Ma, thank you for
everyone.
Ma, thank you.
Jai Ma.
Thank you, everyone.
Jai Ma. Thank you.
Jai Ma.
Hey, Ma.
Thank you.
Mangalananda, Jai Ma. Ajna.
Jai Ma, everyone.
Adiós.
Jai Ma.
Adiós, amigo.
Que Dios los bendiga.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Maybe be sure and copy and chat down that people leave. If you want to leave your email, it's good. In fact, is Katya still here or did she go? Oh shoot, I wanted to get her email too.
I can get that to you.
I have
Okay.
it too. I have it too.
Good. So I wanted to put her in touch with the lady who's translating my book into Ma's book into Portuguese. That's cool.
Hi, Constance. It's good to see you.
Oh, and Janet and Dave, so good to see you guys too. Everything good? Everything going well? Your health is good?
We've had a little bout of COVID, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's going through the same thing.
You know what that's all about, so.
Yeah.
What did you both have it?
No.
Just Dave.
Just my karma.
Wow. You better now?
Yeah.
He's mending. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, evidently these later mutations are not quite as bad. Like when I had it, in the Shivananda in the Bahamas, it wasn't bad at all. But, but I found for even now, it's been 6 months. Even now, I can't catch my breath. I was tired for like 3 months. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful. Take it easy.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I'm just glad for the vaccines. Otherwise, I don't think we'd be having this conversation.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. You don't sink down into the Netherlands when you have the vaccine. It's true. Okay, well, take care, everybody.
Okay. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.